I'm super happy with ILUS. I think that, like, you look, I mean, things have pivoted and taken different courses, and I understand all that. But like with what they have going on right now, like what they're doing, I mean, like Nick and JP finally did it. You know what I mean? That's like just they finally did it. Let's just say that.
How close is ILUS to directly uplisting to the NASDAQ? If and when this does happen, will there be a recurring dividend, or will it be a one-time dividend? What can you tell us about all the buzz that's been going around about ILUS uplisting to the NASDAQ?
Yeah, very close. A hell of a lot closer than you might think. So, yeah, I don't think I can really say much more than that.
Is that my sound? Is that my soundbite for the whole interview?
Jesus Christ, great.
Hello, greetings, and welcome back to the BFC, where we go into the trenches of the trading world. I hope you guys are staying safe and warm. Yeah, we're getting hit with some snow. I know all across the United States, it is a freeze down. So listen, I hope you guys are being safe, sincerely. And welcome back to the BFC Live. It's our second show of January. By the way, I did put out a PFSF video and tour of the Toronto facility. And I'll tell you, it was awesome. So if you haven't checked that out, guys, totally check it out. You know, there's a lot I got to address. We have two awesome guests today, and I don't want to waste any time. I know I'm looking at the comments, guys. If you're watching, leave a comment, share your opinions. That's what this is all about. And make sure you ask our guests some questions, because we're all about firsthand due diligence. So I don't want to hear that stuff. Oh, well, I couldn't make it, so you should have read my mind and asked the question. No, we're here to do live due diligence, and that's what we're going to keep doing. So I want to talk about a couple things, the housekeeping issues we got to talk about. And by the way, cheers to all you guys. And if you're watching, I don't even know who's winning the games right now, by the way. Don't know, especially after what happened to the Bills last week. So a couple of housekeeping things that I want to address before I get into it with our guests. So yeah, over the past day or so, you know, my DMs have been pretty active. Questions, concerns, frustration, confusion. So instead of playing telephone or responding in a piecemeal, I wanted to speak plainly to the entire community. And yes, I'm talking about ILUS and SAML specifically. So yes, I did speak briefly with Nick a few days ago, and I'll get into that in a second. But listen, I've covered these names regularly for years, and I'm not suddenly going to disappear or pretend this isn't happening. So I still own ILUS, I still own SAML. I actually added last year, if you guys have been following along, and that hasn't changed. I have real capital invested right alongside all of you that have been on this journey for a long time now. You know, I was just mentioning, you know, we've been in the Discord for almost half a decade now. So I'm not watching this from the sidelines, guys. I'm not insulated from any of these outcomes. So when things move forward, I feel it. And when things stall, yeah, I feel that too. So now let's talk about the elephant in the room. All right. Yes, there is a federal indictment involving RB Capital. That is a matter of public record. All right. And being somebody that has covered the stock and, you know, having Brett Rosen on the show, yes, I do feel the need to talk about it and address it. I'm not going to back away from it or be afraid to talk about it. But it's important to say this accurately and responsibly, guys. It's an indictment. It's not a guilty verdict. All right. And it's not a class action lawsuit. So legal matters are legal matters, and we have to let those things play out. That's how this works. And I'm not here to speculate on legal issues at all. And for those that have lacked comprehension skills, and I've mentioned this many times, none of these RB Capital stocks have ever been paid promotions, not from the companies, not from RB, not from any third party. That line has been disclosed, and it's never moved. BFCcollective.com/disclosure. Take a look. All right. So any paid promotions are there, any marketing campaigns are listed there. So yeah, listen, I've always disclosed that stuff. But now, yes, has he been a guest on the show multiple times? Yes, and it is what it is. And I don't regret sitting with people that are heavily involved in my investments and my community's investments. And quite frankly, it's good due diligence, in my opinion. And I always have the chat on so you guys could ask questions too. So, hopefully you guys appreciate that. Now, I want to get on to Nick Link for a second. What I can tell you is that Nick remains committed to seeing the process through, based on the community due diligence. It's up to him, to utilize his position in H2O to help fund ILUS and SAML and get those things current, get them out of expert market. I asked him if he's going to address the recent indictment, and he's not going to do anything until he checks with legal, and rightfully so. Because honestly, as an investor, the last thing I want is to see a stupid reactive tweet that would further damage the already compromised shareholders. These kinds of things, So he did mention that he is interested in presenting at our third virtual conference, the BFCVC3. That is going to happen on February 18th. And as always, we will approach that professionally, transparently, and on the record. So that's it. I mean, that's what's going on there. All right. That's my communication there. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. The lack of meaningful progress over the last couple of years has been disappointing. I share that frustration. I share the disappointment, but I'm still here, still invested, and still monitoring the situation and dealing with the same realities that you guys are. So what I'm not going to do is vanish. I'm not deleting videos. I'm not rewriting history. I'm not going quiet because something doesn't line up perfectly for me in my emotional state or my financial state. That's not who I am. If I commit to something, I'm going to do it. And those that have been following me, you guys should understand that. So I just want to say that's just the truth. So I've invested too much financially and personally, and I remain committed to the community. And yes, I'll admit it. I still have some hopium left in the tank. I do. So listen, I want to just go and remind you guys about that PR that came out. Obviously, the timelines haven't worked. That's why I invented the ILUS timeline pill, damn it. But right now, they had that share purchase agreement, with Fusion Fuel Green, and ILUS could monetize or leverage those shares. All right, so that is the hang up here of getting these things current. I truly believe that it needs to happen. And so, this is the complete letter. So if you're catching up, just pause this and read it straight through. Nick Link does mention, we now have a plan to host our next shareholder meeting in Q1 2026, where we will present tangible progress and clear momentum toward our goals. Our intention is for that meeting to be both forward-looking and strategic, setting the tone for what we expect to be a landmark year for ILUS. And I know what many of you are saying. Yeah, okay. Yeah, imminent, right? I get it. I want to see results. Further details and dates will be confirmed and shared in due course. I got to say this just because it's so OTC. Once again, thank you for your ongoing patience, loyalty, and belief in ILUS. We remain fully committed to delivering measurable value and driving the next phase of sustainable growth for our shareholders. And so, there it is. And so we wait. And I'm not going anywhere. And you guys are, when are you going to do ILUS? When are you going to do it? When we have tangible stuff. I'm not just going to put out content for the sake of doing it. And I will address it when we have things like this happening. And that's what I've always done. And I also want to say something else that's sort of been bubbling up. For those complaining about coverage or questioning my effort or my motive, let's be very clear. The work we do here does not stop because the situation gets uncomfortable. We're going to continue to grow. We're expanding due diligence on new investments. We're growing the OTC virtual conference, as I just mentioned, the BFCVC on February 18th. We're doing more on-the-ground due diligence, product reviews, as we've always done, and in-person interviews. And I'm not going to quit because a couple of these plays are upside down and sideways. That's how it works. We get some hits, we get some misses. That's the OTC. That's how it works. All right. Obviously, we want more hits. We want more home runs. But we are building and we are being consistent. So if you appreciate that effort, great. You're in the right place. If you don't, well, bugger off because we're not stopping. So yeah, on ILUS, on SAML, we're still here, still invested, still monitoring the situation, and we're going to let facts, not emotion, drive these steps. So I don't want to waste any more time on this. And by the way, let me correct myself. It's not wasting time. It's something that I want to do. All right. And so to correct myself there, I don't want to waste time, but I feel like I have to address these things in the way I am today. So if I seem a little hot today, tough shit. That's where I'm at. And so I want to talk about the facts, and I will be monitoring the situation. And that's why I had to post things that I posted. So that's that. Whatever. All right. Good. Moving on. Moving on to our next guest. All right, our next guest, one of my favorite guests that we have. I hope that he has good internet today. Does he have good internet? Let's find out whether or not he has good internet. Mr. Oscar Brito, welcome back to the BFC. How you doing?
Hey, Eric. Pretty good of yourself.
Very, very good.
Can you hear me out okay? Just making sure my mic
I'm having a little trouble hearing you. You're very, very low. I know Roxanna Green's backstage. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear him. If you can hear him, Roxy. I'll just check on that. But I will get to the nitty gritty. I don't know what I'm going to get you. I'm going to buy you a microphone and I'm going to send it to you. So let's get to the, by the way, Oscar Brito, everybody. Oscar Brito.
Hello. Hi, Eric. Hello to your audience.
I want to talk about, first, the MSPC coin. I want to go through each of the things that has been put out. So explain what these things are, these different tiers when you reach, 10,000, 15,000, like what is this and how is this tangible for coin holders?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a promotion that we ran with our MSPC token. So basically it had a different three categories or three different tiers of reward levels that you would receive if you buy a certain amount of tokens. And we'll retweet tomorrow, just to make sure that everybody, has the perfect information. But if I remember correctly, it was 10 million tokens. And what I got you was 10% off and 4 free nights at our properties, at the properties tokenized by Travaglio. Another 15 after 15,000, if I remember correctly, I think it was gold, and it would bring you to 15% discount on all your stays and 4 free nights. But anyway, we'll put it on the tweet. I'm going off of memory. I don't want to make any mistakes, but the important thing is that, when you participate in our tokens, you have real rewards based on real properties. And that's what we're, implementing. That's what we're trying to, one is that we're trying to spaces. And that's one of them. The second reward that we announced is anybody that reached 35 million tokens, they would have naming rights into certain properties that we have, right? All the properties were successfully unlocked, as you showed in the previous slide, Eric, because that was just a matter of certain threshold that we met very early on. So
so those are all unlocked.
Yeah. So wherever Travaglio operates, I'm trying
Excellent.
to say, they'll get rewards. The rewards to their according to their token threshold, right? So we launched the U token end of last year. We're just cranking out on the actual marketing. This actually, the second week of January, as the December period is pretty dead. So we pulled back on some of the crowdfunding dollars, and now we're relaunching hard, and we think this is going to be a very successful, token for us and our investors. But also, I want to take the advantage, Eric, that you have me on board, and again, thank you, man, for having me. I love being here as always. Is Travaglio just launching second token, which is an initial that we're going to anchor it on a 4-star site right in the heart of the biggest oil reserves, which is 100% owned by MetroSpaces. So we're going to put together an agreement between the two firms and use this as our anchor project, along with some big brand in Caracas as well. But these two would be our anchor projects for the token that we're looking to announce officially launched in about a month's time. So MetroSpaces, it's a great story if we can make it finally happen. It's a site that we bought about 10 years ago. Actually, it's fully entitled 4-star hotel. The idea would be to put like a branded I don't know, I'm just going to throw some names. Whatever, Hilton, whatever good brand that we've worked with in the past is a sure candidate. And it's exciting because it's, there's currently nothing there. And 10 now after, with the change in the the political situation in Venezuela, this could actually not just be worth a lot of money, but there's a good chance that we can this hotel out. Well,
I got to say, like that's pretty remarkable. And the fact The fact that you had this, I know I discussed this with you, and you're like, dude, you'll know. Like we all watched it go down when they took Maduro out of there, and you were like, holy shit, like this couldn't have happened at a better time. And I guess people are happy. You know, I'm not going to speak politically speaking, but like you were sort of elated. You're like, all right, like this is like we have this property down there, and you could totally capitalize on this right now.
You know, I've been as well, but I sometimes, and I've built in Venezuela pretty successfully, so I know the lay ground pretty, the ground pretty well, the lay of the land, and we have great relationships. So getting these kind of projects done is easy for us, it's doable. But moreover, I mean, because Venezuela, or you have a lot of hope, you knew that this would turn around someday. I thought it would take less than 10 years, but 10, 11 years. But here we are, right? Nonetheless, we own, this spectacular site. And I think it's going to be a great anchor project in this token that will be launching. So I'm born in U.S. Venezuelan relationships. I see a lot of good things going forward. Not just the current structure is good for a transition period, and I think whoever takes over will be given the government in pretty good hands. So I see, I'm pretty optimistic about how things are going to go forward, and we're seeing, that's why we launched the token. We're going to launch the token. We see there's a lot of interest in kind of rushing into Venezuela, into real estate, along with oil and telco are probably the three biggest, industries that are going to benefit immediately from this. Our idea is to bring, branded luxury projects, both to whatever we do in Caracas, which we're looking at a few sites through Genesis, obviously. Also to kick off, actually, Metro Spaces holds two hotel sites. One in the heart of the oil reserves, biggest oil reserves in Venezuela, but also one right off of Margarita to build an incredible beach boutique hotel as well. So, I mean, who knows? It's incredible that after all this time, through all these changes, these assets really may play out very well.
Yeah, it's totally crazy, man, to be honest. And could you just go one more thing I wanted to, and I hope that you presented at our conference. I know you're involved with a couple companies, Affluence, GNIS, you don't shy away from business, MSPC. And so congrats on the work that you have been doing. I know that the people have been watching very, very closely over the last couple of years. And, so congratulations on that and the progress that you're having and adapting to the digital world as, and all these digital assets and cryptocurrency. And, we're all watching this play out in real time. We're actually living through history right now. Right. So remarkable. So can you just break this down for us for this, the actual coin? Because MSPC Coin, guys, remember, is the rewards token for this. So could you just explain this a little further, Oscar?
Yeah. So these tokens, these tiers on thresholds, how many tokens you buy, and what they're going to have is basically based on travel and hotel stays and that kind of thing. Our first few projects, our first two rewards, like we mentioned, is this tier program that gives you discounts on stays in our properties. That will extend to the properties in Venezuela as well, obviously, and also naming rights for some of the villas that we acquire. But look, this token is going to evolve into something a lot more like lounge, airport lounges and that kind of thing. So as you meet certain thresholds, and you buy a certain amount of tokens, you have access to great, ever better rewards for travel. Right? This is our dream. We're going to get there. It's what we've announced is what we're doing now, what we're actually delivering on. But there's going to be very exciting things that I think are going to surprise a lot of people, being that it's incredible, but there's no token program out there that's tied to actual rewards for traveling, right? Like we mentioned before, right? Like your Platinum American Express, just you buy the tokens instead of, apply for a credit card and pay $500 a year. So that and we'll be adding more to the rewards, which just make a token, theoretically worth more, right? Because you're getting more and more benefits, right? So that's how the token ties into everything that we're doing. Travaglio, as a sister company of Metro Spaces, works very closely on the assets, the properties that we extend to the rewards. and they'll be working more and more together. I mean, my kind of the vision that I have for this is for Metro Spaces to focus on the tokens and a couple of these side collateral businesses, and sort of be the token level layer for the STOs, right? For all the STOs that we deliver through Metro, through Genesis, through Travaglio, we'll have like a rewards layer that will be run by Metro. So that's how these properties can really, create a lot of synergy between the two. That's not really being done now, and it's going to come, right? So there'll be some sort of tokenized level rewards program that's going to go on all brands, and we just see, we think that we have a chance here to kind of, be forgers of the industry in a sense, right? We're trying to lead the way, and I think a lot of people will follow. But that's how we're seeing these two play out, Eric.
Right on. I'm excited to be a part of the journey here. A question from the Unboxing Bastard 2254. What's the whole time to get free travel? Good question.
The process of selling the tokens, then we have to build out some of these properties, or in the shorter term scenario, when we buy some of these properties that we'll be buying in Panama and Buenos Aires, etc. As soon as those have been acquired, which I'm not going to give time, but it will be soon. Very, very soon after we sell a good portion of the tokens, then these rewards will be immediately available. So it's we'll again, I don't want to give time, but I would not be shocked if it happened within the next 3 to 6 months that some of these rewards are available for actual properties in Latin America, like I just mentioned.
Right on. Great question. To follow up on that, just because I want to follow up on that, let's see, how would I say this? Could it possibly be that you could register and it's like a first come first serve basis? So as the properties roll out, they could register their tokens to be, all right, you're first in line to retrieve those rewards.
Yes.
Would that be something that you guys would do?
Absolutely. Good question. So we're actually this week, we're going to announce the first sometime, it took a little bit longer than we thought to get the tech together that could actually automate the process. So we have something semi-automated because I didn't want this thing to keep extending. So sometime this week, we'll announce a process to verify the amount of tokens. But anyone that has tokens by the day that we're going to announce, which it'll likely be Wednesday, we'll officialize it tomorrow. And then whoever has the certain amount according to the rewards, which will rerun tomorrow, will have verification of their reward threshold level, and we'll send them certificates in the way of QRs that they can use to redeem these rewards in due time. So if it all goes well and we're successful placing the token like we estimate, in 3-6 months, we could have some of these rewards, ready to go, and people have their QR codes that will work once they get into once they want to check into these properties. So that's we're running and tying our shoes on, Eric, but it's coming together, man.
Just don't tie your shoes together. Then that'll be a problem, right?
I agree.
Oscar Brito, thank you for giving us an update. I look forward to hearing your presentation at the conference and hearing updates in the coming weeks. So keep up the great work, man.
Thank you, my friend. Be good, Eric. Nice seeing you.
Always. Always a breath of fresh air having him on. All right. So before we bring on our next guest, I just want to sort of give some backdrop here and, just a little bit of due diligence. Let's see. I'm figuring out my screen today if you haven't figured that out yet. So I want to talk about ticker HIRU. Amirex enters strategic partnership with Patagonia. And she's going to correct me on that. I'm saying that wrong. But basically, we're talking about lithium mining here. And so I'm going to ask her more about this recent update. This is their most, I think this is their most recent PR. So we're going to ask about the lithium mine. All right. And pause this, if you're watching this, just so if you want to read through this, or just go on otcmarkets.com, where you should always start your due diligence. Filings, news releases, share structure, it's all there for your eyes and your mind. Right now, they're sitting at a market cap of 35 million. They have about 7 billion outstanding shares. This is a typical OTC structure, but this is moving very nicely. I do want to highlight this. No convertible notes. Isn't that a breath of fresh air? All right, so that is one thing that and we actually talked about this one at Dub 3, and it's already over half a penny. So if you've been following us, hey, you should be up on this one, but I think this one could go to the moon. They just say that. Nah. Hey, I think this is going to be we're going to have some nice return to going to the moon. Just saying. I'm kidding, folks. Here's the chart. It looks freaking gorgeous. And you had the 5,200 cross, and now here we are. All right. And I think we're going to continue to see this pattern based on the buys that are happening in the insider support. And so I don't want to waste any more time. I want to bring Roxy in, and let's welcome her. Roxy, welcome back to the BFC. How you doing?
I am doing great, Eric. Can you hear me okay?
I can. You know, I want you to explain to people. I know usually when we talk or I cover Roxy Green, it has to do with Hollywall, ticker HWAL, which has a lot in store, in my opinion. I think that's going to be another winner of 2026. But explain your role with HIRU, as I call it, and look at this gorgeous chart. And are we going to see more of this? I know you can't predict these things. And remember, this is not financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. Roxy, floor is yours.
Well, first of all, thank you, Eric, for inviting me to talk about HIRU. And yes, I was brought in to help this company. So I'm not going to talk about operations. I'm not going to talk about financials. I'm going to talk about strategy of this company, which is what really lured me in to come in and help the company and stateside. This is a very unique company in that it is funded and managed by investors from the royal family of Qatar and other Qatarian and other large investment firms and investors from the Middle East. So when I was asked to come in with my team, our team here stateside, it was to really help them advance because it's the first U.S. publicly traded company that the royal family of Qatar actually holds interest in. So we are really the bridge between America and the Middle East for all the activities. But most of the heavy lifting is done by the management that I get to work with every day and support. So, I mean, they have a very stringent strategy. They are a holding company, and what they specifically invest into is precious metals and oil and gas and other energy properties and critical minerals. They're very specific to their investments. There is no debt on the company. It is self-funded by the investors and the founders of this company. And that'll continue to be the case. And that's how they're growing. The companies, they continue to support through their network of institutional investors, family offices. So what you're seeing right now is continue equity purchasing through the market and to continue to support the growth of this company, which you will continue to see.
Okay. Because when I look at the chart, I'm going to go back to the chart for a second. And this one I've been watching since it was in the trips, and you sort of like, you want to see things play out in real time. And so I felt it was time to at least mention it on BFC because it had that nice retraction to dub 3, the upper twos. And I was like, okay, based on the stock performance, insider support, and how things are moving and the catalysts that they're dropping, the news consistency, the change, and the fact that they brought you on, which was a familiar name, I go, okay. And I especially felt comfortable because I look at the HWAL example and the fact that you guys eradicated and had a settlement on your only convertible note. Correct. And that this one has no convertible note. So I'm not going to ask you what price is this going to. Should we expect to see more of the continued support throughout quarter 1 and quarter 2 that we've seen so far leading into 2026?
Well, let me ask you answer the question with asking you a question. Have you seen the price of silver and its growth? Are you watching the price of gold? So this group of investors are some of the wealthiest investors in the world. I mean, they are really focused on buying critical minerals and rare earth minerals and diverse energy properties. I mean, that's their only agenda. And at the end of the day, it's all real world assets, right? So they're putting their money where the mouth is. So we continue to see the growth. I would say absolutely yes. You know, and the thing that I wanted to talk about on this call today, which is, and this I will talk about. And by the way, when I was brought in, I have a team that I work with here in the U.S. It's a great body of men and women that are experts. They're legal minded, they're financial minded, and so it's a consortium. Yes, my name's there as the secretary, but there's a team of us that's been part of this company's. Let's just call it rebuild, rebirth, because this management and this ownership group came in the latter part of 24 and 25. It took them a little time, year 25, to kind of figure out how to restart this company with the assets that they moved in, which was Premier Copper and other assets in Australia that they merged in almost immediately of taking control. And since then, they have now announced other acquisitions, which they're in the process of making and completing, which is 5,200 daily barrels of oil in Canada, silver mine here in the States in Nevada, which has about 45 million ounces, and then lithium holdings in Australia and Argentina. I mean, they're very focused. I think that what I'd like to say to all investors, both retail investors and to all stakeholders, I think what everyone should be doing is buying as much as they can get of this stock, because what's supporting behind this stock is real world assets. Okay. And as those minerals come out of the ground, it's going to throw off tremendous dividends to the shareholders. I mean, that's what investors invest money for. They invest their money for either appreciation for the investments they're making, such as the stock, and potentially, future dividends, stock and cash. This company is formally prepared so that by the end of this year, at the latest, it could be by mid-year. I won't make that prediction, but their objective is to start pulling the reserves out of the ground slowly with tremendous partners, mining partners from around the globe. And that will present cash dividends to the HIRU shareholders. I mean, that is their objective.
Bring it on. Unboxings are active question asker tonight. Are they cash flow positive? And I actually, after this question, I had a question in regards to the mines themselves, but if you could,
the difference is of how HIRU is going about making acquisitions is extremely prudent. They are not buying startups. They are buying into going concern mining operations. For example, in Canada, the oil is producing 5,200 barrels a day. So yeah. Same thing with the lithium mines. They're actually buying an interest. Patagonia is how you say it. Patagonia is actually an Australian publicly traded company on the Australian exchange. So that investment is an investment into the stock of the company and all the operations of that company, which includes obviously lithium mining interests in Australia, but also in Argentina, which is one of the richest lithium mining regions in the world. So again, we're not talking about, this is not a traditional OTC market company. Okay. We're talking about the royal family of Qatar and the full weight of their network of professionals, whether it's auditors or commercial banks. It's incredible. And again, they are buying interest into going concerns, very successful, profitable enterprises.
Right on. I want to ask a question by the way, if you can't hear it, the snow blowers are going. Like I'm like, there's snow hitting my house and ice hitting my house. And that's why if you guys watched me like turn and look, it's because it's starting to pick up. so it's like there's excitement happening outside. I'm like, look, squirrel, look, snow. Oh my gosh. But I gotta say, yeah, it's chilly up here, by the way, Roxy.
Same here, Eric. I'm down near DC right now. We already have 8 inches on the ground. So I'm not going anywhere. So I'm here to answer any questions shareholders may have. Right on.
Guys, if you have any questions.
If I'm allowed to answer them, by the way.
Please. Oh yeah, put them in the chat if you guys have any questions. I know it's a light crowd today because of the football game, but I said, they're like, you're really gonna go. Somebody asked me, I think it was Jess. We were talking. He goes, you're really, Jamie. You've talked to Jamie. You're gonna go live during Sunday football. I go, dude, the Bills lost. My mind is not there anymore. All right, that's why we didn't go live last week. By the way, is because I had to watch my Bills eat it. But I do have a question, an important question in regards to the actual the mines themselves. A lot of these mines, they do their surveys and maybe there's something there. And a lot of times you see these mines and they go in and out of these tickers. What is special about the mines that are being acquired by HIRU, and are they going to be active and are they going to be producing? I mean, because it mentioned in the one PR, I said up to, was it to do 100 million per year, possibly based on one of those mines?
Well, I want to be careful because I'm not the CFO here, and I'm not the technical one that starts talking about specific reserves. I leave that to the next call when we'll bring those folks from our camp in.
Oh yeah, bring them on.
But what I do want to say is, prior to this company looking at any company to acquire an interest in, they look for a few things. Obviously, they look for the correct reports to see what has already been, analyzed to the reserves that are in the ground. Number one, if it's a non-performing mine, which is the case with our silver mines, by the way. It's one of those companies that's kind of moved between companies. However, with the oil and gas operations in Canada, they're producing. The lithium mines are producing. So again, I'm not going to get in the weeds of discussions about those specific mining operations because I don't have the knowledge to speak tonight about those things. But what I can say about this group that manages the operations of HIRU, the advisors, consultants, and team members that works in front of every transaction, they are auditors, they are engineers, and they've been in this space of buying and selling petro companies and other mining operations for decades. So they're the expert. I can assure you, this company is not putting a letter of intent together or MOU or even a definitive agreement together without them knowing that it's a very substantial opportunity. That's not their business. None of us have time to waste here. Okay. So again, all I can say for any investor, future investor, do your due diligence. I think our press releases and our filings are really technically stated because it is that side of the company that is writing these press releases. They're specifically giving the parameters of every mining interest or oil and gas exploration opportunities that we're acquiring. So do your research, read the reports if you want to be that technical. I will say this to you again. We've been very direct in our announcements. Our whole interest in building this company is for future cash dividends for our shareholders. I'll give you an example of this. I did some mathematics. Now, again,
are you addressing Barlito right now?
Me?
Oh yes, because he did ask. I didn't know if you were going to talk about the dividend. I mean, you're talking about dividend potential, but he did ask, are share buybacks still a possibility? And thank you for your time. Very excited to own shares.
Well, I think that's what you're seeing right now, guys. A lot of the buying now is the buying that's going on is now we have institutionals buying, okay, and they're certainly buying to buy up. And you asked me, will this continue? The answer is absolutely, because let me be careful what I say here. The institutional buying that's coming in, and I know it's institutional. They certainly know the potential value to this price of the stock and the dividends, of course. And you will continue to see that. I mean, let me give you analysis of something. And again, I'm not a CPA. Let me preface this. I'm not a CFO, but let's just look at something. Okay. The silver mine, as example, has 45 million ounces of silver. We know from our reporting in the mine pits and a little bit underground. Okay. That's 4.5 million at $100 an ounce right now of silver. Let's just use that. And I think it's probably 105 today. Where in China was at 125. So let's just use 100. Okay. That's $4.5 billion of potential reserves that we can get to take out of the ground. If we only take 1% of that out of the ground in the first year, okay, that's $450 million of revenue. Across all of our shareholders, that is it's 6.5 cents, okay, a share. Now, if you take the lithium mines, forgive me, it's 6.5 tenths of a cent. Forgive me, okay. If you take the lithium mines, which has about 7 billion in reserves, okay, and you do the same thing, and you only brought 1% out, okay, that's a penny a share dividend, just 1%. So we're trading at a half a penny. Let's just look at the practicality, and I will tell all investors all right now, okay? Is that every one of these mines could be producing minimally, potentially, a penny a share, okay, to the shareholders. And we're trading at half a penny. So why would you not buy the shares right now, even if it's just for the dividends? 3 operations minimally, oil and gas, lithium, and silver. And silver, each could throw off a half a penny, okay, or a penny a shareholder, okay, a share. So
that's crazy.
So
is
again,
that,
and that's only 1%. 1%.
Would you say we're gonna approach that this year at some point? Is that well? No, I'm not even talking. I'm not. I know you're talking about the dividends structure of it. Are we going to be able to? Are dividends more 2027, or are we looking at that for this year?
I think dividends could be. We could look at it by fourth quarter of 26. The way the companies are moving.
Wow.
With, and they've already announced, for example. I mean, we have.
So you're talking about the ratio of a penny per share dividend. Times 3 different operations. That's per lithium mine. That's per. Wow.
And that's only if we only bring up 1% of the reserves out of the ground a year, which is a small number. It throws a dividend of a penny a share, potentially. Okay. Remember, we already have operations that are already generating revenue, like the oil and gas. Same thing with the oil and gas. And the oil and gas is not a penny a share, it's a penny and a half a share. And that's already producing. So do I suspect that the company could present cash dividends by fourth quarter, the end of this year? Absolutely. That is its intention.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's like saying this is going to be a really, really good year. By the way, just for transparency purposes, I have I think it's 1.2 million shares. That was the position that I made personally. And there's no paid promo here. I'm hoping to work with your team at some point with Hollywell, but this is one of my investments, guys. That's why I brought it to you guys at where I made my entry in right at the dub3 mark. And that's why asking these questions, I appreciate the answers, and I'm liking the answers even more to these questions. So keep going, Roxy.
Again, let me preface this again. I'm not an accountant. I'm not an auditor. I'm not the CFO for this company. However, I know the intricate details of what we're acquiring. Okay. And if you just make a minor assumption of what we can effectuate this year and bringing small amounts of the reserves out of the ground of what are in the ground, as well as what we are already bringing out of the ground on oil and gas, and what that would minimally look like as potential cash dividends to our shareholders. The point is there is 3 examples of 3 separate revenue streams that could equate to that type of cash dividend for each stream. Okay. So if we're talking about, let's cut it in half again. Let's say a half a penny dividend for lithium, half a penny dividend for per share for oil and gas, and then silver. That's a penny and a half dividend on a share right now that you can buy for half a penny. It's a no-brainer. Again, I'm not going to tell people to do, but if I'm going to suggest that do your own math. Go read everything we disclose. It's all public. Okay. Do their own analysis. Okay. And I just said I based silver at $100 an ounce, and it's probably, I can tell you where it's at in China as of last night. It's $125 an ounce.
Shit.
Okay. And it's not stopping. There is a supply and demand for these minerals. Okay.
Wow.
These minerals are very important for every area of industry now, whether it's AI and chips and EV industry, right? The aerospace and for rockets. We're talking about silver. We're talking about gold. We're talking about lithium. These is the sectors of industry that this company and their capital investors, this is their focus. Okay.
Right on. I know we're winding down on time, but I want to give you a chance just to give the final pitch. I want you to just have a closing statement to shareholders or potential shareholders. I want to thank you for coming on the show. I plan on seeing more of you, and especially as I ramp up my investments. I'm going to have a lot of answers, and I'm sure people in the community that are buying this are going to have a lot, have a lot of questions, I should say. So I appreciate you taking the time to come on and to address these things on the record. So last message to shareholders or potential shareholders.
First of all, Eric, I love coming onto your platform, and it's an incredible platform. And we're your biggest cheerleader, and we're going to continue to work beside you this year, not just to talk about HIRU, but also HWOL and other companies. We as a company, as a body of great people in the U.S., when we were brought in to help HIRU to really reboot. It was a great opportunity for us, because what happened is that who I answer to, right? Sheikh Khaled Atani, the family, and I helped them wade through all this compliance and public affairs. It really helped us unify, which is what HIRU is now rephrased to be called Amerix. And Amerix has a definition. It stands for, and I want to read it to you, and I don't have it in front of me, but it stands for the bridge between America and the Middle East, energy exploration. And so when I was brought into this company, I'll make this very quickly. If this doesn't send sound waves to the investors, I don't know what else does. When I was brought in, it was at the same time that the royal family of Qatar made a $1.3 trillion investment commitment to the United States. And I received a call from our counterparts a week after that commitment, that U.S. public announcement. And he said that he was getting calls from his colleagues in Qatar. And what they wanted to know is, okay, what public companies in the U.S. should we be buying into? And my colleague said, well, you should be buying into HIRU and HWAL. And so with that being said, that is why you're seeing what you're seeing. And you're going to see the same thing start moving over to HWAL. And I only say that because a lot of these same shareholders I know have positions there. So read our recent news as well there. You will see the bridge. I'm not on this call to talk about HWOL. We can do that on another call. But it's Absolutely. An incredible, wonderful unification between great countries, and their real interest is to make investments in the United States and other parts of the world, and to do great investments and to offer shareholder value to our shareholders by way of appreciation to the investments of our securities and future cash dividends.
Guys, do your research on these. Look up the names. Oh, by the way, I got to tell you a funny story before you go. So I started looking up the names that have been dropped in these press releases, and I've been, looking them up on LinkedIn. You're gonna laugh. So every freaking time now that I go on LinkedIn, it automatically is Arabic, and so my whole LinkedIn is Arabic, and I got to switch it over to English every time. So that's how you know when you're doing a little due diligence. It's when your LinkedIn automatically changes to Arabic. So, but guys, do the due diligence. Like she's saying, look at the PRs and start putting two and two together and put the names together, because like I said earlier, I think that we're just getting started with this one. Roxy, thank you so much for coming on the show, and I look forward to having you back on very soon. And I look forward to your presentations at the BFCVC as well.
We'll be there, Eric. Stay warm, y'all, and thanks for your time, guys. And it's always my pleasure, Eric.
You got it. We'll see you. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Oh, man. I'll tell you, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Let me take a look at the chat real quick to see, make sure I didn't miss anybody. OTC and protocol. Yes, sir. Hey, we got to have Frank back on. Actually, by the way, he just put out another rant and rave, episode number 9. He's really poking the bear. I will say, like I don't know, like that's what he does. But he's the new sheriff in town apparently, and so yeah, if you think Frank's stopping, I guess he's just gonna keep on chugging away. And no, shout out to you, Frank, and people at the OTC and protocol. And so no, good to have you on. I look forward to seeing your presentation as well, Frank. So he's a part of Tickers, not only just OTC and protocol, but he's a part of GRU Coin, and PNXP. So hopefully we get some PRs from those guys soon. And Anthony says, "What's up?" And yes, you did mention, Anthony, is there going to be a reverse split on AFFU? You just missed Oscar, unfortunately. Last I recall, based on everything that was going on, a reverse split was on the table. And anything with that kind of a share structure, given like what he's doing, I would expect that he wants to clean it up as much as possible. But I cannot say that for 100% certain. That's my speculation based on the last interview we had regarding solely AFFU. So, that's where I'm at with that one. So I don't want to say definitively, but I would always, I think if I remember correctly, it was on the table last we talked. That's what I remember. So, but don't quote me. There it is on the record. I say it and I say, don't quote me. So I'll ask him. I'll bring it up to him, and we'll have him back on, and hopefully they do an AFFU presentation. And I know Oscar has his hands on a lot of bags, but that guy's always moving and grooving. I want to give everybody a shout out. Thank you for those that have continued to support this community and be a part of these live chats. I appreciate every one of you. Thank you to our guests, Oscar Brito and Roxanna Green. I hope you guys have a very safe night and stay warm. And that's all I got. Remember, there is more that binds us than breaks us. You guys have a wonderful evening. Peace out.